I would say almost none of you know this, but nobody's looking at my YouTube channel except for people who already know me. So I'm going to say most of you probably know this. I've been having some very serious health struggles lately. What happens when you start encountering those kinds of problems is that your mind goes in some interesting places. We've heard the stories. I don't know if we really believe them until it happens to us. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is how much I love stories. Anybody who knows me knows that I love telling stories. Now, I'm not a good storyteller. What I am is somebody who turned 4 years old in 1974 and then decided that was good. Just put it in park, and I've been 4 years old ever since. I just like the attention. But they're fun for me to tell. Even when they're not funny, they're still fun to tell. So maybe one person at some point in the future takes a look and enjoys the story or doesn't. They're there. And that's the kind of thing that a person starts to think when health starts to get a little bit shaky. But I got to give you two disclaimers. One is that if I tried to rank them, that was my original plan. My 100 favorite stories, number 97. If I tried to do that, I would run out of time. It's indigestible as a project. There's no way. So you're going to get them in random order. You're going to get whichever one I was thinking about in that moment. And the other thing is, and it's kind of the same thing, if I put a lot of snazzy post-production on these, you're going to get pretty raw footage. You're going to get a pretty ragged, amateurish video out of the deal. And I hope that's okay. I love you all, whether I know you or not. I've been feeling a lot of affection for a lot of people, trying to say as many nice things to people as I can while I can. Now, I don't think I'm going to be dead in 20 minutes. Doesn't matter. If you have an opportunity to do that, take it. Even if you're going to live another 20 years, you'll still be glad you did that. So here's my first story. When I was a little kid, there were 3 or 4 TV stations and nothing. Nope, there were no opt-outs. There was no cable unless you lived right in the middle of a city. And there were no dishes and there was no internet and blah, blah, blah. Back in my day. What you did was you put this thing on the roof that looked a little bit like a set of fish bones. And then you twisted it while somebody downstairs yelled out through an open window, "That's a little better." And you did that until you were happy for a few days. And as the earth continued its course around the sun, and the way the sun's radiation hits the magnetosphere changed, what that meant was that you got a different bounce and you had to go up there and do it again. If you really wanted your TV to look good, you'd have to go up there almost every day, which of course nobody did. So we lived with pretty crappy television. Most of it was made by a very small number of people. This is something I think not everybody from that time realizes. If you go to IMDb and you type in the name Glen A. Larson, Larson, you're going to get a list of TV shows from the 70s that you're literally not going to believe. You're like, wait a minute, no. These can't all be the same guy. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. There were like 4 guys. But just a sidebar. But we talk a lot about how woke culture has artificially ripped open this floodgate, and now everybody thinks that they can be the... those four guys never deserved the kind of control over the social dialogue that they had. They taught a whole generation of people how to behave, and they made a mess of it. They were not good people. They were misogynists. They were people who were happy to take the easy out. Not great guys. And I say that about them even though some of those shows are still very dear to my heart. But one thing that Glen Larson loved to do in his shows is he loved to have a bomb defusal scene where some regular character of the show was sitting there with a screwdriver and a pair of pliers while the timer ticked down. He did it over and over and over again. And because I was both young and ADHD addled and also kind of weak as a character, I was very suggestible to something like that. So I decided that it would be fun to play bomb defusal at home. One of the benefits of it is that you don't need to have friends, which was good because I didn't. So the way you would play bomb defusal is very simple. You would get a white bath towel, a Phillips head screwdriver, a pair of bacon tongs, and a cloth dinner napkin. And then you would find an object in the house, preferably something that either your mother or your stepfather or both had invested a great deal of sentimentality into. That was a big plus. And you would take that object and you would sit it down very carefully on the folded white bath towel because you don't want it to go off, right? And then, over the course of the next hour, 2, you would very, very, very carefully remove all of the screws that were holding that thing together. Now, you're probably wondering, what's with the bacon tongs and the dinner napkin? That's the best part. You fold the dinner napkin until it's about the shape and size of a dollar bill. Then you put that dinner napkin in the bacon tongs off center. So the tongs have it at one end. And then, because you don't want to get sweat on your fingers, you pick up the bacon tongs and you use the dinner napkin to get the sweat off of your forehead because you're a pro and you know how to defuse a bomb because Glen A. Larson taught you how to defuse a bomb. God damn it. So I would do that. I did that a lot. There's only one small problem. If you have ADHD as bad as I do, still, today, as soon as you get that last screw out, the thing has disappeared. It doesn't exist anymore. Hey, let's go ride bikes. So what that meant was that all through my childhood, there were all these objects all through the house that were sitting there looking perfectly normal, fully assembled, nothing out of place, just waiting for somebody to touch the thing with any pressure at all so that it could go into about 75 pieces. Now, I got to change the perspective a little bit in the middle of the story. Forgive me for getting you up, but I have to put you in a different room of the house. I always did that in the kitchen. I don't know why. The kitchen is the room where you do bomb defusals, apparently. I didn't learn that from Glen A. Larson. I have no idea what that was about. But we'll fast forward about 3 months. I'm sitting in the living room and I'm watching TV. I'm probably watching Battlestar Galactica or Quincy. I mean, how much farther apart can two shows be? How much more different can they be? Well, guess what? They were both made by the same guy. They're both Glen A. Larson. So anyway, I'm watching something. Now, my stepfather had a father who was a clocksmith. My stepfather's father was probably, I'll never know, but probably a really good clocksmith. Why do I think that? Because we found, after he died, we found a sign in the house where he had lived. And the sign said, Becker's Clock Shop, hours 9:30 to 11, 2:30 to 4. You got to be a pretty good clocksmith to have those hours, right? So anyway, because my stepfather's father was a clocksmith, my stepfather didn't like his father at all. But, you know, no matter how hard you try, the apple never falls that far from the tree. My stepfather knew a lot about clocks, and he had clocks. There were clocks in the house. Don't get ahead of me. So I'm sitting in my chair one night. I'm watching Glen A. Larson on the TV, and out of the corner of my eye, here comes my stepfather walking toward the mantle clock with a key in his hand. Now, I'm 11 years old, and I'm sitting there watching this, and I kid you not, I know it's self-serving to tell this part of the story, but at age 11, the thought I actually had, no lie, the thought I had was, well, it's too late to run. And a few seconds later, he stuck that key in that clock. He gave it about an eighth of a turn, and that thing went off like a nuclear missile. There were pieces that actually went over my shoulder. I could actually hear it. I mean, just chaos, just clock wreckage everywhere. And I was sitting there, I was so scared that I stopped being scared. And my stepfather used to beat the shit out of me. I mean, I have reason to be scared. But I was saying I was so scared that I actually sort of stepped outside of myself, and it was like curiosity. I was thinking, like, I wonder what a guy like that does in this situation. I mean, is he going to take the parts and feed them to me? What's going to happen? And for a long moment, I was just sitting there thinking that. And I'll never forget this. He still had the key in his hand. He turned to me and he said, David, you suck as a bomb diffuser. You're fired. And then he walked out of the room.